So, hello and welcome to another special edition of our Do One Thing Well webinar series. My name's Adam Corcoran and I'm the Technical Sales Engineer for Esri Ireland. Today I'll be walking you through how to jumpstart your mobile workflows. In this webinar, we'll not only be taking a look at the core Esri mobile applications and how to configure them, we'll be looking at them based off different scenarios. So, as you all know full well, each project has its own set of key requirements, and any mobile workflow really has to take into considerations the project's mandate. So we'll be discussing different industries, different projects, and what mobile workflows would suit them. And of course, we'll have demos of everything we covered today. And if you do want me to send on any of them, please email me at the email on screen now. Um, but before we get into the mobile app side of things, it's that time of the webinar where I introduce our 60-second spotlight for the month. Every webinar, we take a cool feature, a new application, or a creative customer workflow, and we condense it down to 60 seconds. These spotlights are intended to be resources for you, our customers, and hopefully gives you some inspiration and insight as to how you'd implement it in your own organization. This month, we have next generation story maps. Whoop, sorry. So So it's pretty interesting that on a typical weekday, the Esri community, the global one, generates well over 1,000 story maps per day, and within the last 8 years, users have created more than 800,000 of these kind of map-based stories. People from all over the world share countless map stories on social media every day, and the Esri Story Maps gallery features hundreds of story maps on topics ranging from how China attracts investors to a tour of famous football stadiums in Europe. Some of the major improvements in the ArcGIS story maps include express map making, but it also includes a single builder with many looks. So instead of having to choose from 8 types of story maps, such as Cascade, Journal, and Tour, before getting started, users can now take advantage of a single builder to create any story map they want with a variety of content blocks to choose from. So users can arrange the elements of their story in whatever order they prefer. So it really is the next generation of story maps. And the biggest plus for me is that they do look phenomenal on a mobile device. So that's our 60-second spotlight on story maps. I'd highly recommend you check it out. And if you do come up with a great one, please send me a link. But now let's dive into the reason that you called in today, and that's to find out all about mobile workflows. I'll start by saying that mobile apps for field operations, it's an integral building block of our Esri platform, or geospatial infrastructure as you're seeing on screen here. And really all the aspects of our platform that you're seeing uh, now connects readily to data captured in the field. So for example, a field worker goes out, does their thing, collects data, that could then get pushed up to a dashboard for an operational view. Analysis could be carried out on it, and the results could then be mapped for various end users. Now, the elements, that make up this aspect really depend on what you want to do. Uh, so all our apps specialize in doing different things. So if I want to fill out forms relating to a location, I choose Survey 123. If I wanted to create points, lines, and polygons in the field, I choose Collector. And actually, the aim of today's webinar is to talk through some scenarios about when to choose which app and why you choose it. So the saying there's an app for that is true of GIS applications as well. An important point about our mobile applications is that we have a dedicated user type for the express purpose of collecting data via our mobile applications, and that's the field worker that you see in the middle. So we have viewer and editor. Can't really do much with mobile applications. The field worker has access to everything, right? So every mobile application from collected to Survey 123. It's also worth noting that Esri do partner with a lot of different companies, and I think one of the best things about the Esri platform for me is that it's quite open and it allows integration with other non-Esri apps, right? So like this is where Microsoft Flow, the Survey 123 connection will come in, or you can add CAD data directly to ArcGIS and have it sitting on Explorer, for example. There's a lot of possibilities out there to integrate with a lot of these applications and even native applications on your phone. So you can make a phone call from Survey 123. It's now even possible to send a WhatsApp message to a group from Collector, say, right? So what a time to be alive. But I'm digressing. So these demos, like I said, are a little bit different today in the sense that they're driven primarily from project scenarios. So in the words of Judge Judy, the cases are real, the people are real, the ruling's probably not as final as the TV show, but these scenarios are roughly based on what we'd expect from projects in a given industry, given our experience. So the first scenario we have is that an ecologist investigates invasive species out in the field. So key requirements in this type of project would probably be, the ability to respond to reports of, Japanese knotweed or giant hogweed, say. Two, the need to assign the report to a team of field workers. So you could have a team of ecologists out in the field working away, and they need the ability to communicate a location to them, and then overseeing work being carried out in real time. And that's a key one that we see quite a lot lately as well, is this idea that you're able to oversee work being carried out in real time. So for that, I would recommend, Workforce. Now there's different ways of you can do this, right? So like we have flexibility there. You can choose Collector and go out, but Workforce really kind of underrated application, very simple in its use. And this is how I'd set it up for, say, invasive species. So I'd go in here to workforce.arcgis.com. I create a project, say call it environmental inspections. I can give it a summary as well if I want, but I'm just going to hit create project here. And again, all our mobile applications are available on Google Play or iTunes, and the Windows Store as well. And once that's created, then I have a dispatcher role. So it's the person back in the office assigning jobs out to the people in the field. I have this thing called assignment type. So I'm going to put in Japanese knotweed. Maybe put in Himalayan balsam, giant hogweed, and curly waterweed. Now, if you don't believe me, these are actually all invasive species. From here, I'm going to add mobile workers. Now, what I really like about the latest enhancement here is I can search for people in my organization. There's me, and I can add them as a mobile worker. What I can also do is add multiple workers from a file. So if I have their username and password in a CSV, and I can also search outside my ArcGIS Online organization, which is a pretty cool feature, which means you can, start connecting other organizational accounts. So once I have that set up, I have myself as a dispatcher, myself as a mobile worker. But if I go into advanced here, I can see I have an option here for location tracking, and I can enable it. And what that'll do is automatically poll at a given time interval. So I'll set it here for 5 minutes. And every 5 minutes, it's going to refresh and see what the location is of my worker out in the field. And here's where I'd integrate other applications. So easily to connect Collector, Explorer, Survey 123. Now, if I open this project, I'm going to type in an address here, Virginia and Cavan. I'm going to zoom to it. So this is where our, location of Japanese knotweed might be. This is for the person back in the office assigning the tasks. So if I click create assignment, I can then add as many points as I want. Alternatively, I might have points on a map as well that I've collected from, a web app, for example. I'm going to label it Japanese knotweed. I'm going to assign it to a given mobile worker. I can assign the priority of it. I can say the due date. I want it on my desk by Friday, 4:30, and any IDs as well, right? So like there is ways I can automate the IDs here. I'll just say Japanese knotweed 12345, and just give it a description as well. So reported locations of Japanese knotweed in Cavan, for example. This is dummy data, by the way. This isn't actually real locations. And I can select the file as well. So like any JPEGs that have been submitted, any PDFs, anything to give further information to the field worker about a given location. Now that might not be enough. So I have in my content, I have this line item, environmental inspection workers. And if that's just a web map, it has my location tracking and it has the assignments and it has the workers, right? So I have my 5 points there. You can see they're gray. They're not being worked on yet. But probably I can change the base map here, right? So it's probably not the best one to have a topographic base map. They might want aerial imagery. Another thing I can do is add in any data, right? So for here, I'm going to add MPWS Ireland data, right? So like ancient and long established woodland, pretty good data set, publicly available. And I can go in here and like that'll pop up on the actual mobile application that the field worker opens. So any of your company data that you want them to have, like I can add in planning applications here as well, just to give a little more context to the field worker about what they're working on. Right, so that's my data set here. And again, I have pop-ups, and I'll have pop-ups out in the field. So that's it. So let's pop into the mobile application. And so if I sign in and I've been assigned the role of a mobile worker, what I'll see straight away is a checklist. So a to-do list here. So I can see Japanese knotweed, and I can see the priority, and I can see how far it is away from me. So I can see I'm in our Ashtown office here. So I have the pop-up. I also have directions. But if I click on this, whichever one, battery's low, but I can see all the information. I can even see the attachment. So I can look at the attachment. I'm out in sight, and I can tap to add notes. But I can also start it, right? So I have different options around it. I can now add my notes. This is not Japanese knotweed. I meant to say disregard. And I can just click finish. And what that'll do is disappear off my to-do list now. I can go on to the other one. And I have start, finish, or decline. So it's very important as well, it's a good point, that if somebody's out in field and they can't conduct the work, they can decline it as well. And that gets pushed back as a red dot. So while the worker is out in the field as well, if they want to pause for a lunch break, they have that ability to pause. And now I have 3 assignments left. If I pop back in to Workforce, the dispatcher view, I can see that 2 incidents have been carried out. I can also see that I'm back in my Ashtown office, which I probably didn't visit the site, right? So you can see where your workers are, you can see how many assignments are done. So that's it really, on Workforce. Like I said, a very underrated app. And if the simple solution um, is needed, it's a good starting point. So scenario number 2 that we're going to look at is a utility company provides a service network. So this could be anybody laying fiber broadband, maintaining a gas pipeline, conducting repairs on a water network, for example. So often what we see key requirements are workers need to see existing company data in the field. They need to navigate to a particular location, and they need to conduct a survey at that particular location. So what I would recommend for this one is a mix of different apps, right? So like if we are adding in company data and you don't want them to have the editing functionality that comes with it, Explorer is a good choice there. Explorer, what it allows people to do is go in, view, they can mark up maps, but they can't edit or create any data off it. But what that does allow us to do is Explorer can pass the coordinates or the global ID from a particular point to survey 123, and you can conduct surveys off that. So let's have a look at how you'd set that up. So this is, a random survey I did up. So it's a transmission tower inspection. You can see it's pulling in the date and time. You can see the structure ID, very useful if I want to scan any barcodes. I can take a photo. I have a drop-down menu here of a structure type. Right, and I have the condition of it as well. So good, needs repair, destroyed. And then I have defects as a repeat in here if needs repair is clicked. So let's take a look behind the hood here. So I have my date and time. So I'm doing this in Survey 123 Connect. Now if we scroll across here, I can see my default is now, so that's pulling in the current date and time. My geopoint is my map. And I have a barcode option here for structure ID, and I say that's required. Now let's look at the photo as well. This is the latest feature, the ability to watermark in Survey 123. So any photos, so I'm going to watermark it with latitude and longitude. It's going to be size 20, color gray, outline color white. And on the bottom center watermark is going to be the date and time. Right, so pretty cool functionality that you can automatically watermark photos. So if you're doing latitude and longitude, you can tell that somebody's actually been at a given location. Very useful if you're putting them into reports as well. My choice list is here in the choices tab. Again, the same for condition. And I have different font colors as well. Right, so like small little piece of a HTML tag. And my repeat then, I have a relevant to say if condition is needs repair, then show the defect. And again, comments, images, you can annotate the images. And I have a calculation in there that counts the amount that needs repair, right? So it counts the amount of repeats. And I have my signature as well. So you can see if I click not assessed or destroyed, my defect repeat doesn't show up. So now what I'm going to do is push this up into ArcGIS Online. You can push it up into Portal as well. So now I'm going to go to survey123.com. Sorry, so I'm going to open up my web map. So here I've just selected like a gray base map here. It's very good for utilities. What I've done is taken OpenStreetMap data, right, the road network. This could be gas pipelines, whatever it is. In this case, it's just dummy data pointing to open source road data. Okay, so I have my points, I have my lines. Now, if I want to integrate with other apps, what I'm going to do, like any self-respecting GIS person, I'm going to Google it first, right? So my URL in this case should look like ArcGIS Survey 123, and I have the item ID, right? So I'm going to copy this into the pop-up of my utility feature layer. So I'm just going to have a notepad here. I'm going to construct a URL link. I'm going to pop into survey123.com, and you see this item ID up top here. that's what I want to get. So like I have here, incident response, that's another survey that I have. You'll see it changes. So if I go to the transmission tower survey, I have that unique item ID. What I'm going to do is copy that into my notepad. And I'm going to take that link and copy it into the pop-up of my point feature layer. So that when somebody's out on site and they're in Explorer, they have an option to survey at this point, for example. So if I go a custom attribute display, I go create link, URL, give it a link text, say survey at this point. Say it's large, maybe make it bold, and click OK. What I'm going to do is save this web map. So that's my Explorer map now. So I have my web map linking directly to survey 123. So if I open up my mobile, so same map. Right, I have my gray background, I have my black lines, and I have survey at this point. It's also worth noting that you have directions, right? So like all iOS devices can now link to Apple Maps or Google Maps. I have a compass as well. If you're surveying in rural areas, right, with no access, you have a compass to find it. But if we go back in, so my sample data set is in Kilkenny, and click on a point, survey at this point. And what that'll do is load my transmission tower inspection. Right, so it's going to pick up my location here. It's pulling in the date and time. My structure ID, if I click on the barcode, I can scan it. So here I'm scanning the back of a book, and it'll take the number. Now if I take a photo as well, so I'm going to take a photo of fire extinguishers, and if I click back into it, you can see it's watermarked. So it's watermarked the latitude and longitude, and it's pulled the date and time as well. Structure type. So again, needs repair will trigger a repeat, and I have comments here where I can put in beam missing, and I have an option here to take photos. And what I quite like here is the ability to annotate any photos as well, so I can circle any defects and I can label it as such. Right, so it's counted the total defects. I can sign it. I'm going to send now. So once that's done, then you have different options here, right? So you can start pushing that into an operations dashboard, for example. You can push it into a web app, whatever it is. But that's how you go about linking two applications together. So scenario 3 then, construction crew out on site repairing footpaths. They could be resurfacing roads, they could be repairing footpaths, whatever. But the key requirements here, would be that workers must have a relevant work license at each site. So for example, in Ireland, we operate on like road opening licenses where you can work between different hours of the day. When the workers go out on site, a photo is needed before, during, and after the work. So before a breakout area is mapped and carried out, during the work, and then after the work as well. So like anything, just a post work photo there. And oftentimes as well, like it goes back to overseeing project work in real time. The project manager requires daily updates or daily reports, which is fine. So for this then, we have to think about our end user, right? So the person going out on site, with shovels in their hands and actually repairing roads probably doesn't want to configure a survey 123 based on relevant logic, whatever. They just want to see points on a map. They want to edit it. They want to attach photos. And I think for this application or this project workflow, collector really kind of stands out. So how to configure collector? A few tips. So if I go into data here, so I have like a feature class, it's just a point feature layer. What I can do on mass as well is just calculate given fields. So what I'm going to do is say I have my ID on the left, and I'm going to say this is site, just for the label for the people out in field. So I'm using this concat function. Don't ask me what it means. It just means that you can you can join two fields together. So you can see that's pulled in. I've calculated my fields, and now I'm going to add the fields that I want the guys out in field to capture, right? So I want, say, type of job. All right, whether it's concrete, whether it's tarmac, probably. I'm going to configure a drop-down menu for that. Again, I'm going to add a field and say start date, which is very important when these guys start a project. And finally then, any comments that they have, so couldn't do the work or whatever it might be. So if I go in, I'm going to create a list, and that's essentially going to be my drop-down menu. I have my label, what they're going to see in the collector app, and I have a code which is going to get written into the attribute table. So concrete resurface, tarmac, just going to copy that in, and say pothole. So once I have my list, I'm going to go into the visualization tab. You see, here's my points. Right, so again, this is open source data, it's dummy data. It could be anything. Now first what I want to do is put in labels of my site, so my calculated field, which is my name. And I'm probably want to put a visibility range on it, down to here, so it's not too cluttered. Then what I'm going to do is configure the attributes, so display and edit, right? So anything that's edited here, they'll have the option to edit, right, in the actual app, right? So what I want them to do is say name, type of job, start date, comments. And you see, I can change the date format. I don't really care about the time, or I can put in a hint as well. So type of job, select one. So once I'm happy with that, I'm going to save layer. And it's worth noting now that anytime this feature layer is dragged into any web maps or mobile applications, this is how it will appear, right? So I've saved the default symbology of it. And then I've just ripped out a generic PDF from Kilkenny County Council in 2018, and I've attached it to a single point. So that's where your kind of road opening licenses would come in, right? Any licenses, any official documentation that you need attached to a point, you can do it in here. Any photos as well before they go out on site, just to make sure they're in the right location. So what I'm going to do is add this to a web map. I'm going to save it. And this is going to be the map that they open on site. So I'm going to call it construction jobs. So if we look at collector in the mobile app, and construction jobs, you see it's already picked up my location, and I have my points here. So again, if I click on a point, I have information about it. And click edit. And it's worth noting that I can move points around as well. So update point, I can move it here. Very useful if you're out on site and you say, oh, well, that particular location isn't actually here. Let me move it for you. I have a photo, which clearly shows I'm not out on site. And my type of job, so I can see I have my drop-down menu. I have a start day, which is a calendar roller. Right, equally as well, you could use one of like the pull data functions that we see in Survey 123 as a default and automatically calculate that. And any comments as well that they have. All right, so this is a tarmac job. Just click done, submit. Again, once I submit, I could have it pointing to a web app, a web map, an operations dashboard, really whatever you want. Right, so you can see my points come through there. I have my photo, perfect. And I can put it into a dashboard. So like surveys due this week, surveys next month, surveys carried out today, right? And depending on what type of job it is, right? Whether it's concrete, tarmac, right? Operations dashboard, pretty good option for that. So scenario number 4 is an insurance surveyor inspects a house. So key requirements could be surveyors must be able to generate their own forms. A Word document or PDF for each inspection is required, right? So like the survey results get pushed in. And an insurance claim in .x format must be uploaded with each survey. So again, you're seeing a lot of, file attachments here. And I just want to drive home, it's perfectly possible to do that. Survey 123, collector, you can even do it in Explorer as well. But if we look at Survey 123 for this instance, right, and it can sit in its own app, and really Survey 123 is such a phenomenal app, and the things that it can do, it deserves to kind of stand out a little bit from the other applications. That's my opinion anyways. But there's 2 different ways we can create a Survey 123 form. We can create it in Survey 123 Connect, which is a desktop application, and that's kind of used for the more advanced stuff. So any calculations that you want to do. But there's also a web designer, right, which is building blocks, you drag and drop, and it's quite easy. So if we look at this first requirement here, for any end users to be able to generate their own forms, if we keep it simple, we can get a lot done within the web designer. So again, I'm going to access this through survey123 arcgis.com. I'm going to create a new survey. I'm going to call it house inspections, give it a tag, call it a demo so nobody thinks it's real. Now I got to say house surveys. Somebody already beat me to the punch on inspections. So once that's creating in the background, this is what it looks like. So we're in the design page. So if I select date, give it a date of survey, spell it correctly. And my default value, so I can have submitting date or I can specify a date as well. Really useful if you're going into the future and you say, well, I need this survey to be done by next week. You can populate that. Another good choice is a single choice grid. So I can put in choices. It could be yes, no. It could be good, okay, bad, right? It could be whatever you want. So any grids, and I can have as many of these as I want. In this case, I'm going to stick with 3. Yeah, and I'm going to give this exterior inspection, whatever. So if I go to back doors, I give a porch, give a driveway, mailbox, and say windows. Clearly, I've never done a proper house inspection. I have no idea what it looks like. But from here, I can alter the appearance of it, right? So whatever color you want, you can have your company logo in the background, or you can choose one of these. Default view, whatever it is. Now, I'm not encouraging you choose one of these backgrounds for like really important projects. And I also have an option here to upload documents, right? So like if I have solely doc format requirements, I can specify that, and it'll only take files in doc format. So I can say, please submit the documentation. Now, what I really like about the Surveyor 123 web designer is this kind of, drag and drop functionality. So if I go in here, I have a single choice. And I could say, did I have access? Yes, no. Now you notice here I have a set rule functionality here. So I can say, if yes is selected, then show tree. Right? If you have no access, just go straight to the end form. Right? So if yes, please submit the documentation. Right, so that's how we'd create a survey in the web designer. A nice feature is the fact that I get to preview my survey as well. So I can see in here I have data survey, and I can see if I select yes for access, other questions appear. That's it on tablet. So once I'm happy enough, I can go okay, publish. That'll publish my Survey 123 form available for house inspections on any mobile device. So then the final scenario number 5, is a county council assesses road conditions in their borough, right? So if I have, the ability to assess road additions, right? So typically what this means is that council workers travel specified routes. Photos are needed depending on the type of condition. So if they're mapping, say, debris type, right, and there's a mattress on a road or whatever it is, they need to be able to take a photo of it. And a simple interface is preferred. So going back to our construction crew, who might not necessarily be tech savvy or GIS savvy, we do offer a new mobile application called Quick Capture, and essentially it's just big button data capture. And where it starts off is that I have a feature layer. In this case, I'm going to use points, lines, and polygons, which I've created, and I'm going to call it road debris. All right, so I've already created this. And then it is a matter of just specifying the symbology. So I've created a list like we've done in the previous scenario in the feature layer. I've given it various different road debris types. Okay, so if it's an accident, if there's traffic signals, whatever it is. And for my lines then, I've put in condition. So if I go in to the visualization tab we were on before, I have my point layer. I'm going to save my changes. Again, I have accident, litter, road sign. I have a line layer, which is road condition. Now, once I'm happy enough with that, I'm going to go into the Quick Capture Designer, and I'm going to select my feature layer. Now, if I want to give my project an icon, I can. And this is what the web designer looks like. So you can see I can adjust columns. And this is what the council worker in this case, is going to be able to see out on site. So we see points of interest. Right, I can group them. I can change the outline width. I can change the outline color. Call this incident area. Right, so like once I select this polygon button, what I'll actually do is just start mapping a polygon. Again, lines, put in. I also have an option to put in different icons, right? So these are ones that I've ripped out of Google. All right, so right now I'm just making sure they're all uniform. I can select multiple buttons at once and apply different properties to them. Again, the same goes for here. So let's jazz this up a little bit. I have my vegetation, traffic light. This could be traffic light not working. I can rearrange as well, depending on what I want to see. And depending on the device that they're going to be using in field, I can check that out as well. Now, if I want the ability, to change button size, I can do that. But let's look at, the more advanced side of this as well. So if I want to, take photos at given locations, so if somebody selects roadwork, take a photo straight away. I have that option here, right? And I have different options to capture fields. So you can see this little black camera icon there up the top left of the button. And that just means every time it's selected, the photo's going to take. Once that's saved, then it's like literally straight away into the mobile applications. Again, available Google Play or iTunes. I'm going to download my project, open it up, and from there it's just a matter of start and collect, you know. So my road condition, I start driving, I start walking, whatever it is, and my points as well. So like I've done this for points, lines, and polygons. You could just do it for points. You could just do it for polygons, or you could just do it for lines as well. So really nice application, and really kind of straightforward to set up. So that's it on mobile data. If you do have any questions, I will look at them. But coming up next in September, we have tips and tricks for your ArcGIS Enterprise. That's going to be given by one of our solution architects in here, who's a GIS encyclopedia. So you won't have to listen to me anymore. In October, we have ArcGIS Hub and Sustainable Development Goals. In November, we have imagery analysis and machine learning capabilities in ArcGIS. Also worth noting, on the 6th and 7th of November, we have a 2-day course in Aylesbury. That's our Esri UK head office. And that's all about field data collection. So, people more equipped with mobile data capture than me, and you're going to learn everything there is to know about field data collection and Esri mobile apps and all the cool stuff you can do. As ever, if you do want to get in touch, my email's on the bottom left of the screen. And that is it. Thanks for dialing in. I appreciate it. I've had it with you all. Best of luck. Cheers.